Next time for another hardcore Nuzlocke, and this is in a wacky new ROM hack that just came out recently, Pokemon Garbage Green. An interesting concept and oh no, this is going to be rough. How far can I make it in this new challenge? Let's find out. Pokemon Garbage Green is a new ROM hack that came out very recently. In case you don't know what it is, it's basically a spiritual successor to Pokemon Emerald Trashlocke, which many people have played. The gimmick of the game is pretty simple. You can only use mons which are considered to be trash or garbage, and you're heavily limited in what you're allowed to use. It's also worth noting that the world map is heavily altered, so this game revolves around gauntlets. Many areas will prevent you from backtracking, forcing you to fight your way through gauntlets of trainers while not letting yourself heal up. It's basically the challenge of having to manage your resources and make sure you don't lose any mons in the process. The starters here are Paris, Sunkern and Slugma. In this video I'll be showcasing a hardcore Nuzlocke attempt that I did with each starter, so you can see how each starter played out. I'll also be showcasing some of my favourite strats for some boss battles, so if you're struggling in your own runs, this video might help you out. I will also be making most likely a separate video reviewing this game, going in depth into the game's design and concepts, but to summarise, I feel like this game is a big novelty, but it wears off really quickly. I do have some issues with this game and things that I didn't enjoy that much, especially compared to other better ROM hacks, but this game is still definitely at least worth a shot for most people, and I'll be explaining why in that separate video. But for this video with Nuzlocks, let's get into the run. For my first run I select Paris as my starter mon, arguably the least viable of the three. Beat the first trainer, then go to beginning Nuzlocke. Now I was way less experienced at this point, so I didn't really know which encounters would be better than others in this trashlocke, but I ended up finding out that starting this run is that Psyduck and Unknown are just the best early game encounters you can get, so much that I would actually just recommend resetting for at least Psyduck. Psyduck especially makes the early game and mid game so much easier and you will need it. Unknown isn't needed, but a good hidden power type on Unknown will make a pretty big difference, as you will see in this video. The rest of the encounters at this point don't really matter that much. Most of them barely do anything anyways, at least not in early game. Igglybuff is something, I guess. It evolves at level 23, so whatever. Ladybug's also really bad, unfortunately, especially after Misty split. It's only got base 35 attack stat and tackle, which is yikes. This isn't Vintage White where every mon gets pumped up with superroids. At least you'll have absolutely no issue before Brock. Nobody here is mandatory except this one camper, so you just speedrun the split. Brock time, and this is a tiny bit encounter reliant. In the first instance where Hidden Power Unknown comes into play, I got Hidden Power Fighting, which is great. This lets me just easily beat his mons. I know people think Brock is very hard for this, but not really. In Gen 3, and particularly in this game, the AI just doesn't use Rock Tomb for some reason. Or it only uses it sometimes. It's really weird and inconsistent, which doesn't make a lot of sense. Anyways, a good Unknown just wins anyways. Time to move on. Route 3 is easy. Next encounter I get Ekans, which only evolves at like level 32 or something, which sucks. Do the Mount Moon encounter, which is Chad-ilicious. This is a pretty Pokemon. Great attacking stat. And here is the first in a long series of gauntlets in this game. Once you cross the Mount Moon barrier, you cannot return, and you have no choice but to go forward and fight all the trainers. There's also little to no healing items available in the whole game, so you basically are forced to manage all of your resources properly. If you take a lot of damage early on in the gauntlet, you cannot heal that amount up, unless you use one of your very limited items, which you will really need to save up. Make sure that you use one of the trainer docks available so you know who you will be fighting and what mons they'll be having. But with this, I make my way through Mount Moon easily. As long as you enter at level 18, you're pretty much Gucci and you should wreck everything. Nothing much to note here. Chad-ilicious is pretty strong. Next we go to Cerulean City, and here I go and do Nugget Bridge. I would recommend doing this before Misty, however, as this was my first real attempt, I had a lot of learning to do still. The shelter that I caught put in a lot of work, but I never realised that once I challenged the rival, I am now locked into 2 whole gauntlets which I cannot escape from, which is a pretty significant difficulty spike. 2 routes in a boss fight, which is kind of rough. The rival wasn't too bad, but I wasn't fully prepared for this gauntlet and I started to misplay. I lost too many resources like HP and PP and just started to run out of gas. I eventually wiped to the very last trainer in the gauntlet, which is really unfortunate. This is because I just wasn't fully prepared. I didn't think the gauntlet would be this long. This is a very different kind of challenge honestly compared to other ROM hacks and Nuzlocke with these forced gauntlets, but oh well. Maybe next time I'll do things a bit better. So on the next run that I attempted, I picked Slugma and I definitely prefer this starter. Make sure definitely that it is flame body, as that's a pretty useful ability you will want. Its other ability, magma armor, literally does nothing. This run I ensured I got Psyduck again and you'll see why soon. I get Ditto instead of Unknown, but that's kind of whatever. The rest of the early encounters don't matter, Igglybuff and Pineco. Speedrun straight to Brock and fight him. Slugma with great IVs and flame body just auto wins his fight. For some reason he never rock tombs it and only uses tackle and defense curl, so you can just spam Ember and beat it, and you can even trigger the flame body to burn his mons. You should not be struggling here. It's funny because you'd think that this would be the hardest gym to beat, but it's actually the complete opposite. Route 3 I got Ekans again, which is frustrating. This doesn't do much at all until it evolves, and at Mount Moon I get Ralts, which is not bad, but too bad it doesn't evolve until way later on. Okay, time to do the Mount Moon Gauntlet again. Slugma and Ralts just bust through everything here. I feel like this game has a lot of grass and bug type mons, and a lot of poison types as well on the random trainers. Remember that these are the exact same trainers from the vanilla Leaf Green, so fire and psychic attacks are just great for coverage. Level 18 is more than enough, and it will ensure that you don't overlevel for the next gauntlet. Time to get revenge on the Nugget Bridge Gauntlet. I beat the rival decently easy by entering at level 20 this time. I got a Clam Pearl, which is pretty nice as there's going to be a lot of ground types that you need to fight. Ditto was only used to beat these 2 mons on Rival's team, then just sat out for the rest of the gauntlet. Now, this is where Slugma and Psyduck really start to shine. Slugma just wrecks all the bug types, and Psyduck with confusion beats all the poison types and especially frail rock types, and a lot of fighting types too. This time I have a way easier time in this gauntlet, by just being more careful and managing my resources more efficiently. I get out in good shape, which is really nice, a big improvement over last run. Before Misty I can get 2 more encounters, and I get Seal and Apom. Both are very useful encounters. Apom's stats are slightly less terrible than the other ones, so I'll definitely take it. Okay, time for Misty, and I will say that this is probably one of the most RNG boss fights I have experienced in this game so far. Without certain mons and strats, you just automatically lose, and even with the right mons, I don't think there's any guaranteed way to win this fight. There's always a chance that you can lose to RNG or hacks or something. Starmie can 2-shots, like at most, the majority of available mons you can get in this game at this point, and barely anything deals significant damage to it without lowering its defensive stats first. But this run I found a way around it. Lead off with Psyduck and beat Staryu with Confusion, then pray to get off some tail whips on the Starmie. You won't be damaging it that much with Psyduck anyway, so you want to lower its defense for the other mons. Seal can come in and weaken it enough so Apom can then come in, outspeed it and smash it with Secret Power, which is a really strong having a 70 base power stab move at this point of the game. This was not an easy fight, but it was pretty smooth. No deaths by this point is very nice. Carry on and get a bunch of other encounters like Cleffa, Tentacool, and Electrike, which is actually a really useful mon. In Dunsparce, which you always get in Diglett Cave, it is actually a very good mon to use. After this, it's time for the next gauntlet on SSN, and this is pretty scary. You cannot leave once you enter the ship, and you can only leave once you get the cut HM, so once you enter, you're basically on your own, and the only way to leave is to basically fight your way out through a lot of trainers and boss fights. Also, there's optional challenges that you can do inside to get some extra rewards, like good items and such. So I did those first, and fought a whole load of trainers to get some pretty good held items like metal coat and silver powder. Then I had to do the boss fight at the end. Luckily I wasn't damaged that much by the cannon fodder trainers I fought earlier on. Dunspor's got a funny rollout sweep on the rival, so that worked out pretty well. And Apom did put in a lot of work with its secret power. Gym 3 next, and this is a pretty unique challenge, as you cannot leave once you enter this gym, so you have to beat everyone inside in one go. I get around this by having Slugma beat all the normal trainers, so my best mon Apom is healthy for Lieutenant Surge, and impressively, it was able to completely sweep his team with secret power. I did have to dodge a crit, but I wasn't punished. Alright. Get more encounters like Barboach and Nosepass, then do another optional gauntlet at Route 9. Slugma and a water type beat most of the mons here. Nice. After that, time for Rock Tunnel, and this is the hardest gauntlet yet, with the most amount of trainers. There's a lot you have to go through. Water types are especially important as there's so many hikers here with ground types, but I did get whittled down eventually, and at the end here I made a big mistake. This trainer here lets you take the spell tag if you beat them, but you have to beat them in this gauntlet with only 3 gym badges, basically not letting me heal up until I beat this trainer. I could just skip them and leave, but then I will never be able to get that spell tag, which I might want. I decided to take on this optional challenge, but I end up just really underestimating this trainer with level 29s. Stomp Lickitung is really strong at this point in the game, and I suffered losses finally. Losing Apom was really bad, but I was just in a bad spot. I would not recommend doing this optional fight unless you knew you could beat it without trouble. This was the beginning of the end for me after these 2 losses. At least I'd get 2 more encounters afterwards for it, which would have been really great had I still had the secret power TM, which I don't. And Lombre is just okay, I guess. The next sequence of events are changed, so you have to do them in a very linear manner. This isn't like the vanilla Leaf Green where you can do a lot of the events in a non-linear order. First, we have to do Rocket Hideout once we reach Cerulean City, and this is yet another dungeon with trainers and optional challenges along with a tough boss at the end. I made it to Giovanni and I decided to fight him first, but he isn't easy. The Kangaskhan is a big problem with his mega punches hitting like a truck. Not much you can really do here, just paralyze it with Nosepass and pray as I attempt to dodge some crits. I got lucky and managed to beat it without any losses, but it was close. After that, you have to do Lavender Tower next, which is another dungeon, except this time you have to fight the boss before fighting anyone else. I beat the rival without too much trouble, but I made a huge mistake of over leveling and bringing level 29s, which was not very good XP management. That was kind of a misplay on my part. I kind of underestimated this dungeon. Because of this, I start to slowly drain myself of resources, which is made worse by how this tower is basically just filled up full of so many ghastlies, and I was just running out of PP to hit them with. To make it even worse, I didn't think to buy any repels, so the wild encounters were starting to gang up on me and chip away at my team, as some of them, like Trapinch and Diglett, have Arena Trap, basically forcing me to fight them. The Diglets especially are pretty fast, so I'm going to be taking a lot of damage to them over time. I somehow got past Marowak, but I just wiped to the final Team Rocket Grunt here as I was out of all my PPs for attacks. Drats, that was so close. Honestly, that was on me. I underestimated this gauntlet and I didn't prepare accordingly, but it was my first time doing it. But now that I know how hard a Lavender Tower Gauntlet is, maybe next time I'll get it? Start a new run again, and this time I used the last starter mon, Goldeen. This was actually better than I originally thought it would be. Pretty good stats compared to the other trash mons in this game, and some nice uses, so let's begin for the last time. I've reset for Psyduck again. There's literally no reason not to take it. And I get Unknown again, which is pretty nice. This was extremely Pog this time, especially because it ends up having hidden power Psychic, and that is wild. Not only are Psychic attacks very useful in general in this game, but stab Psychic attacks on Unknown, which is the mon with I think one of the highest special attacks available in the whole game, is a very big win and very useful for this run, as you will see. The other 2 encounters were not very useful, but we go straight to Brock time, and for the third time in this video, but special attacking Unknown just dunks on him as hidden power psychic. Let's go, this might be the run, baby. Route 3 I encounter Coughing this time. It is actually a surprisingly very good encounter. It has great defense, and Sludge is a very good move in this game. Not many mons get access to a 65 base power stab move by level up, so take advantage of it. Get Chad-ilicious again, which is nice. Then do the Gauntlet again, and this was easier than ever. Goldine with the good IVs works really nicely. Good stats compared to everything else. Horn attack does good damage, and Peg can surprisingly deal with all the bug types, and even one-shots a decent amount of grass types too. This was easy. Catch Mancade and fight Rival again. He was free. Coughing literally ends up sweeping this entire team at level 21. I only needed Coughing for this fight anyways, and I'm not going to be using it against Misty anyway, so it's fine. Level 21 is good for Coughing. This means that the rest of my team will be healthy for the Gauntlet. Goldine and Unknown end up just trashing all the mons here. It's really surprising how much damage Hidden Power Stab Psychic does in Unknown, especially because I've got an Impish Nature. That is really impressive. Strong. Catch Seal and Skitty afterwards. The latter does nothing in this run. Oh well. It's Misty time again, and I came up with a pretty decent strat for her, though it was risky of course. Unknown takes out the lead Staryu, so Psyduck can then come in, tail whip the Stormy twice, so Goldine and Seal can beat it down with physical attacks, while taking at least 2 hits from it in return. I had to dodge a bunch of crits here, but it worked out in the end. Pretty good. Get more encounters like Yanma. It sucks as it's getting no good moves at all till like level 40, which is giga cringe. Slowpoke has really good typing, so you take that. Mareep is also a great encounter as Flaffy has some of the better stats for this point in the game. Just be very careful of these trainers, especially the ones with Magnemite. You'll probably want to go around them and fight the other trainers instead. Then get the guaranteed Dunsparce of course. This time for SS and Gauntlet, I chose to beat the rival first, then do all the other optional challenges within afterwards. The last thing you want is to lose too much health to the optional challenges, then be unable to beat the one mandatory boss fight. I was able to beat all the optional fights, but it wasn't that easy as PP was starting to run out, but I managed to make it work. So I left with all the good items and no losses. Return to Gym 3 again and do a similar strat as last time with a normal type, but this time I make it even better, and this is what I recommend for your Nuzlocks. Dunsparce can basically sweep Lieutenant Surge with TM secret power and can tank up all the hits he has. It's even stronger than Apom, so this is just a great mon, especially as it's guaranteed. Honestly, its stats aren't even that trash at all to begin with. It's pretty good. Getting in Kata afterwards, which does nothing. Chinchou, which is actually very nice, and Onyx, which is great. I clear out Rock Tunnel Gauntlet with moderate difficulty. Chinchou is a very good mon, and I gave it TM Water Pulse so it actually has a good water move to use. Stat wise, Chinchou is actually better than Psyduck in every way, with great dual coverage and just better typing. I got great use from this Chinchou, I was quite surprised. I got by easily enough, but with some damage taken, and this time at the end of the gauntlets, unlike last time, I choose to avoid the spell tag challenge. It's not worth the risk for an extra item that I probably won't even be using anyways, so just ignore that. And I don't lose anyone yet in this run, which is really nice. Next encounter is Lickitung, which is really solid actually. It is a worse Dunsparce, but it's still good and better than a lot of other mons. Tangela is an excellent encounter. Draining moves work really well for a lot of gauntlets, especially with its non-trash stats. Being able to heal itself is vitally important. Rocket Hideout next, Onyx with Rock Slide, walls out all the rats, Unknown blasts all the poison types, and for Giovanni, Tangela bodies the rock types, and I just have to deal with the Kangaskhan. This is still a threat, but I beat it down with Onyx using Screech so Dunsparce can just beat it down with secret power. Alright. After Giovanni, I then finish up the optional areas in Rocket Hideout to get some more items. This Unknown got a pretty clutch sweep, well, it was poisoned, which is pretty funny. Now, time to get revenge on Lavender Tower Gauntlet. Rival fight was incredibly obnoxious this time around. Everything on this team was easy, except for the Ivysaur, which trolled me like crazy, getting all the sleep powder hits in Razor Leafs and Overgrow range. I had to dodge some high rate crits and I took a lot of damage in the process, but was able to take it out eventually. This made the rest of the gauntlets so much harder to do. I was very close to wiping here again, and I could have easily just lost this run. I got pretty lucky. I did get a well trappage though, but I never really got to use that, but at least I did remember to buy repels for this, to deal with the arena trap encounters. The tower is comprised of mostly ghastlies. Now, Unknown can body them, but it just runs out of PP quickly because there's so many of them. So my only good way of beating the ghastlies was by using my feint attack Teddiursa. Special Teddiursa, which is kind of funny. And if I got confused rate hacks enough, I would have probably just lost, as Teddiursa would have whittled itself down with the confuse hacks. But thankfully this did not happen, and I did just manage to make my way through. The awesome strat that I realised at the end was to take advantage of the wild Diglets in trap inches to allow Tangela to heal itself with Absorb. Some free health, which is so useful. This allows me to basically body Marowak with Absorb, leaving only the Rocket Grunts, which I make it through, but I did have to struggle with some resource management, but it was definitely easier than last time at least. The team was so battered and bruised at the end, but Tangela really saved me here at the end. Anytime my Tangela got damaged, I would just find a wild Diglett or Trapinch and just absorb it and heal myself up, which is really useful. Goated encounter Tangela. Gym 4 time, and this is interesting. It's not a gauntlet like the last one, but the rules make it so you're only allowed to bring 4 mons into this gym, making this more challenging. Erica was the only threat here, but without the right mons, you just lose. The huge threat was Vileplume, as nothing really counters it. Really good attacking stats, Giga Drain is very strong, heals itself up, good defenses, and really annoying status moves. Swablu that I got from Route 2 against Erica can beat the lead Victory Bell with Peck, which is kind of funny. And Coughing can beat Tangela, but nothing counters his Vileplume, absolutely nothing. Lickitung will just get destroyed by Giga Drain and it will not deal enough damage in return. Coughing will also lose to Giga Drain as it's just so specially frail, and it can even be put to sleep with Sleep Powder, and nothing else can just switch in. So my only option, as dumb as it sounds, is to self-destruct. I can't believe I'm unironically blowing up my Mon to win this, but man, it worked, and it was worth it. Losing only one Mon in his entire run to get past the first 4 gyms is not only a very good result, it's better than wiping. Let's be honest, barely anyone actually makes it this far into the game without losses anyways. Hell, most of the people I see playing this game wipe before Misty anyways, so this is still really good. Another really good strat that I could have used against Erica that I only realised I could have done afterwards was to potentially PP stall all of Erica's Giga Drain by pivoting between, let's say, Onyx and my Yanma, as Giga Drain only has like 5 PP, so when it tries to Giga Drain my Onyx I go into Yanma, then when it tries to Acid my Yanma I go back into Onyx, and you keep doing it until it runs out of PP, which could work, but I just never thought of that. Maybe next time I can try that strat. I recommend you try that out though. But this is still a great run. Past Erica with only 1 loss in the whole game. I can now do this optional gauntlet here for the Silk Scarf to buff my Dunsparce, and this right here, this sign right here, is probably some of the cringiest dialogue I've ever seen in Pokemon, and that is saying something. This is cringier than anything I've seen in Dark Rising, and that is saying something. Anyways, the run's doing really well, and things will only get better, right? Wrong. Because this split right here is the hardest split in the whole game. I have now made it to the biggest difficulty spike in the whole game. The Cycling Road Gauntlet, which has a more billion trainers you have to fight. Almost everything is poison and or fighting types. It seems easy, right? Well, technically yes. But then I realised that my Unknown has nowhere near enough PP to handle the threats, and Slowpoke is just too weak to beat that many mons. There's even 2 trainers here who are flipping Machamps, and you have to be at least level 36 to have a good chance of beating this. But this also risks you of over leveling your best mons for Koga, as there's another arguably even harder gauntlet after this, which is crazy. My only hope of winning was to really micromanage and study the docks, use weaker moves and weaker mons against the weaker trainers and save every hidden power psychic for an evolved mon like Weezing or Muck. Just look at these docks, look how many trainers and how many mons I have to fight. There's a more billion mons here. I do not have enough PP for this. Even with preparation, Unknown runs out of PP like a third of the way through this gauntlet and can no longer do anything. The Machamps are so strong that even Slowpoke at a high level struggles to fight it and still takes a lot of damage, and Onyx can't even handle the poison types that well. I should have taught it Dig, which is a misplay on my part, and my team just gets whittled down by poison hacks. This is so hard, and I really tried to fight, but I was eventually bleeding out, and once I lost my first mon, this run started to fall apart. The wipe was inevitable. The craziest thing was that I was maybe 3/4 of the way through this gauntlet and still had like 6 trainers left to fight. I was just not ready for this crazy difficulty spike. I should have managed my PP better, but it's over now. One mistake I did make in this gauntlet was deleting some of my weaker moves for stronger ones, which I usually do in other games I play. I feel like most people just habitually do that in Nuzlocke, because in this game you need every attacking PP move possible. Even if it is a weaker move, you just need it. For example, deleting Thundershock for Shockwave on my Flaffy was a misplay. I should have kept the Thundershock as well, so when I run out of my 10 Shockwaves, which by the way isn't even that much, I at least have 20 Thundershocks so I can still attack with my Flaffy. But once I ran out of Shockwaves, it literally only had Tackle, which is really dumb. But it's over anyways. This was a big surprise, and I will say, this game ramps up in difficulty massively. If you're struggling in like Mount Moon in Nugget Bridge in this game for your own Nuzlocke, then I've got news for you, because the game does not get any easier after that. Quite the opposite. The game just gets harder and harder. Overall, I had a wild ride with this game. It's definitely a unique experience that really tested me in ways that very different from the way other ROM hacks do things for Nuzlocke. Though I did have some issues with this game and I did start to get a bit bored of it, it still has some unique selling points and some interesting design philosophy, so it's at least worth a shot. Stay tuned for more content, and next up, I would like to make an in-depth review dissecting this game in a lot of detail and talking about a lot of the features of this game, about what I did right, what wasn't so good, and how I measure this game to other games that I played. But until then, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time. This is Chad-ilicious, signing out.